All right, let's dive in. Alicia Vikander, Tomb Raider, and that incredible transformation she went through to play Lara Croft. We've got articles, social media discussions. Everyone wants to know how she got that physique.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
But it's more than just like getting ripped, right?
Okay.
It's really about a strategic approach
It is.
to fitness,
Absolutely.
tailored to a very specific, demanding goal, and all while she was filming on location.
Yeah, under some serious constraints.
That's got to be tough, right? Makes you think. Could we all benefit from a personalized plan like that?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what's interesting to me is how Vikander's plan really highlights the idea of a cutting cycle,
Mm-hmm.
which often I think people get a little bit wrong. It's not just some quick fix, it's a phase, right?
Right.
Where you're focused on reducing body fat
Okay.
while you're preserving the muscle you've already built.
Okay.
And it only works as part of a larger multi-phase approach.
So it's not a magic bullet. Got it. Cutting cycle. Now, one thing that keeps popping up, it's like everywhere in these articles. Ketogenic diet or just keto?
Right.
Sounds like it was key to Vikander's transformation. And I'm curious, why do you think they chose this approach for her, especially with all the travel and those remote locations?
Yeah, that makes sense. Keto, high fat, moderate protein, super low carb, it has gotten very trendy.
Yeah.
But I think for her, the choice was more strategic than just following a trend.
Okay.
Think about it. She's moving constantly,
Yeah.
often in places where finding specific ingredients is a nightmare.
Yeah.
But keto, it relies on things that are easy to find. Avocados, nuts, olive oil, things like that. You can find them almost anywhere.
Right. You can.
That simplicity makes it a lot easier to manage those macros that your protein, fat, carb targets.
Yeah. You don't need to be like meal prepping in the jungle.
Exactly. It's all about adapting to the individual circumstances.
Makes sense. It's a lot more practical to grab some avocados than to be like, oh, where's my perfectly balanced salad? Yeah, for sure.
Out here in the wilderness.
And, we're talking about keto, but this isn't just about weight loss.
Right.
It affects your body in a lot of ways. When you drastically reduce those carbs, your body enters a state called ketosis.
Okay.
And basically, it starts burning fat for energy instead of glucose.
Interesting.
And that metabolic shift, it can affect a lot of things. Your appetite, how you think even.
So it's not just about what you're eating, it's almost like how your body's processing fuel.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And this is actually what's driving a lot of the research into keto. Because there might be benefits beyond just losing weight, things like improving mental clarity, having more sustained energy levels,
Okay.
which would be huge for someone like Vikander with that kind of schedule.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, and I can't stress this enough, keto's not for everyone. And if you're thinking about doing it, talk to a professional first, Yeah. Good advice. Always good to get expert advice. Now, these articles had some really interesting details. It made me think, Vikander's trainer, Magnus Ligdback, he was actually kind of nervous about this whole setup.
Oh, really?
This was the first time he'd ever had a client do a cut remotely.
Wow.
So no constant supervision.
I can see why he'd be hesitant, for sure. I mean, when you're in such a demanding phase, you really want to be keeping a close eye on things, making sure the body's adapting,
Right.
You might need to tweak the plan as you go.
But here's the thing. She was totally dedicated, super disciplined. One article even said she didn't complain, even when things were tough.
Oh, wow.
And Ligdback himself, he talked about her unbelievable willpower.
I think that's a great point. It really shows how much mindset matters
Yeah.
in any kind of transformation, maybe even more than the specific diet or workout.
Yeah, you have to have that resilience to stick with it, especially when you're really pushing yourself.
For sure.
It's almost inspirational, right?
It is, yeah.
I mean, if she can stick to this strict plan while filming an action movie and in those conditions, maybe we can all find that little extra motivation, right, listener?
Absolutely.
Now, getting back to the specifics of the diet, one of the articles listed her macro targets 100 grams of protein, 150 grams of fat, and under 40 grams of carbs per day. So those are her building blocks, right? But for someone who isn't training for an action movie, how do you translate that macros as building blocks idea into an everyday approach?
That's a great question. It's all about understanding that those macros, the protein, the fat, the carbs, they all have these different roles in our bodies, right? And they impact our goals differently.
Right.
Think of it this way. Protein, that helps build and repair tissues. So it's super important for muscle growth.
Okay.
Fat is essential for your hormones, and it also gives you sustained energy. And carbs, well, people often demonize carbs.
Yeah.
but they're our primary source of quick energy.
Okay.
So it's not about cutting anything out completely, but finding that balance that works for you.
That makes sense. But how do you figure out that balance? Is it all about like meticulously tracking and counting everything you eat?
Well, that's where it gets a little tricky. Macro tracking can be a really great tool, especially if you're new to fine-tuning your diet. It helps you become more aware. But it doesn't have to be this rigid thing you do forever.
Right.
There are ways to simplify it, to kind of get a feel for how much of each macro you're having without needing a calculator at every meal.
Right.
The key is to start by thinking about your goals.
Mm-hmm.
What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to lose fat, build muscle, or just maintain? And then you can adjust those macro ratios accordingly.
We can help with that, right, listener?
Yeah.
Now, I'm getting hungry just thinking about all this macro talk. And thankfully, one of the articles actually included a sample menu from Vikanders' keto plan. So let's dig into the details here.
Sorry.
First off, tons of seafood. Seems like that was her go-to protein source.
Makes sense. It's a great choice, especially on keto. Seafood is packed with protein, essential fatty acids, and it's usually lower in calories compared to other protein sources. Plus, it fits right into those macro targets
Okay.
perfectly.
Then we have the emphasis on healthy fats, as we've learned, a pillar of the keto diet. Avocado galore, olive oil, nuts for snacks, all the good stuff.
Exactly. And this is where we can bust that myth that keto is just bland and
What
boring.
else are you going to say?
These healthy fats like avocados, olive oil, nuts, fatty fish, they not only keep you feeling full and give you that sustained energy, but they actually add flavor and richness to your meals.
Right.
It's about being creative and finding ways to really enjoy those fats without feeling like you're missing out.
That's a good point. It's not just about cutting things out. It's about incorporating delicious, satisfying foods that actually support your goals.
Right.
Now, here's something I thought was interesting, even with this strict plan. She was still eating 5 meals per day.
Oh, wow.
That kind of goes against the whole intermittent fasting trend, doesn't it? And I know a lot of people listening are probably wondering about that.
Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, we're all about personalized plans here.
Right.
Right. For someone with Vikanders' intense training demands, consistent fuel throughout the day is crucial. You don't want to be hitting those energy crashes, especially when you're pushing your body that hard.
Right.
It's not about blindly following a trend. It's about finding what works for your individual needs and your lifestyle.
Okay, so consistent fuel, healthy fats, lots of seafood. What else stands out to you about this way of eating? What might our listener find surprising about this menu?
I think what's really interesting is how this menu challenges the idea that keto has to be restrictive and boring.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of variety here. And with a little bit of creativity, it can be enjoyable and sustainable. It's not about deprivation.
Right.
It's about making smart choices.
Yeah. It's not like grilled chicken and steamed broccoli every day.
No, not at all.
You can have flavor and variety. And speaking of variety, there's been some interesting chatter on social media about like Hollywood's embrace of keto. And it's not just actors. We're seeing pro athletes adopting it, talking about performance benefits. What's your take on that? Is this just a trend or is there something more to it?
It's definitely gained a lot of traction, and for good reason. Some research suggests that keto might enhance mental clarity, stabilize energy levels, even boost athletic performance in certain situations.
Okay.
But like any dietary approach, it's not a magic bullet. And it's certainly not for everyone.
Right.
Professional guidance is key, before you make any big changes to your diet.
Right. It's not just about jumping on the bandwagon. It's about making informed choices. Now, we've talked a lot about the what of Vikanders' diet, but let's switch gears and talk about the how. The training regime that sculpted that iconic Lara Croft physique. And remember, she wasn't just working out in some fancy gym. She was training in some crazy locations, from deserts to glaciers.
Pretty impressive, right?
Yeah.
Talk about commitment.
Yeah. And what's interesting to me is her training, it wasn't just about aesthetics. It had to be functional,
Yeah,
mirroring the demands of that role.
exactly. And her trainer, Magnus Nigback, he's known for this functional approach to fitness.
Okay.
Lots of compound movements, working multiple muscle groups at once.
So it's not just like isolated bicep curls. It's moves that actually prepare you for real life challenges.
Precisely. So squats, deadlifts, pull-ups, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
They mimic everyday activities
Yeah.
and help build overall strength, mobility, and stability,
Okay. I see.
which fits perfectly with the Lara Croft character, right?
Yeah.
Someone who's strong, agile, and can handle anything.
Right. And speaking of pull-ups, there's this clip in the trailer where she's doing these insane one-handed pull-ups. It makes my attempts at the gym look pretty pathetic.
Well, those one-handed pull-ups, they require exceptional control and power. It's a real testament to her dedication and the effectiveness of that training program.
So we have the functional training aspect, which makes total sense. But there's also this emphasis on MMA conditioning. Can you break that down for our listener?
Sure. MMA, mixed martial arts, it incorporates elements from all these different combat disciplines. So it requires a blend of strength, endurance, and agility.
Okay.
The conditioning aspect focuses on developing that cardiovascular and muscular stamina, the kind you need to sustain high-intensity effort.
Got it.
Essentially, she was training like a real-life action hero, pushing her physical limits to prepare for all those stunts and action sequences.
Pretty cool. And it wasn't just about the physical side of things, right? Ligback really stressed the importance of mindset, mental resilience.
Absolutely. Mental fortitude is key, for achieving any challenging goal, especially something like a physical transformation.
Yeah.
It's about pushing through discomfort, staying committed, maintaining that positive attitude. And remember, Vikander, she was actually initially a bit hesitant about the role's physical demands. Yeah. But once she made that commitment, her determination was incredible.
That's inspiring. It shows we can all tap into that inner strength, even when we're faced with things that seem really challenging.
Absolutely.
Now, here's the million-dollar question. Is this level of transformation achievable for the average person? Or is it just Hollywood magic, with personal trainers and private chefs?
That's a question a lot of people have. While Vikander definitely had support from a team of experts and a very dedicated schedule, the underlying principles, they can be applied to anyone.
Right.
It's not about replicating her exact routine, but understanding the concepts, adapting them to your own life.
So finding your version of keto, your functional training program, your path to feeling strong and empowered.
Precisely. It's about identifying your goals, creating a plan that works for you and your circumstances, and then having that dedication and consistency.
To see it through.
Exactly.
And speaking of seeing it through, one thing that struck me about Vikander's story is this wasn't just a temporary makeover for the movie. It seems like the changes she made, they've had a lasting impact. Like she's integrated those lessons into her life.
You're absolutely right. And that's what's so valuable about a real transformation. It's not just about that end result. It's about developing sustainable habits that improve your overall well-being in the long run.
Yeah.
It's about creating this ripple effect where that commitment to fitness, it positively influences your energy levels, your confidence, your mental clarity.
A rising tide lifts all boats, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. The diet, the training, the mindset, that importance of sustainability. But there's one more piece I want to touch on before we wrap up the controversy. It seems like not everyone's thrilled with how Hollywood portrays these extreme transformations.
Right.
There's been a lot of discussion, especially on social media, about the potential negative impact of showcasing these drastic body changes.
Yeah, it's a valid concern. The entertainment industry often glamorizes those quick fixes, extreme measures, which can be misleading, even harmful.
Right.
It's important to remember that these transformations usually happen with a whole team of experts, a dedicated schedule, sometimes even special effects.
Yeah.
It's not always realistic, what's achievable, or even healthy for the average person.
It's like comparing your behind the scenes to someone's highlight reel. Not exactly a fair comparison.
No, not at all. And that's why it's crucial to view these transformations with a critical eye.
Yeah.
Prioritize health and well-being over aesthetics.
And I think that's a really important takeaway from today.
Absolutely.
Vikander's story is amazing and inspiring, but it's not a blueprint for everyone.
It's not, yeah.
It's a reminder that everyone's journey is unique. And what matters most is focusing on your own goals, your own needs, your own definition of health and well-being.
Well said. And remember, listener, you're not striving to be Lara Croft. You're striving to be the best version of yourself.
Perfect. Now, before we wrap up, I want to leave our listener with one final thought. We've talked about Alicia Vikander's incredible transformation, but what would your transformation look like? Maybe it's not about six-pack abs or becoming a real-life action hero.
Right.
Maybe it's about feeling more confident, having more energy, just generally improving your health. What are those small changes you can make today that will help you become a more empowered, healthier you tomorrow?
Yeah, it's a powerful question to think about.
Yeah.
What does your transformation look like? It's so easy to get caught up in comparisons, right? Especially with social media and everything.
Yeah.
But true transformation, it's personal.
It is.
It's about progress.
Yeah.
Not perfection, not some, unattainable ideal.
And I think that's what makes Vikander's journey so relatable, you
Right.
know? It's not just about the result, it's that grit, that willingness to push yourself. I think people really connect with that.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is this wasn't just about looking a certain way for her. She was prepping for a role that demanded a lot physically.
Yeah.
Her training, it had real-world functionality.
Right. And that's a good reminder for all of us. Fitness isn't just about aesthetics, it's about how you feel, how you move, having the energy to actually do the things you love.
Exactly. It's about building a body that supports the life you want to live, whatever that looks like.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into Alicia Vikander's Tomb Raider transformation, what's the one thing you hope our listener is walking away with?
I think it comes back to that idea of personalized transformation.
Mm.
The Cantor story, it shows us how powerful a strategic approach can be. You know, setting those clear goals,
Mm.
having a plan that's tailored to you, and then that commitment
Mm.
to really see it through.
Yeah.
But it's not about copying her exactly. It's about understanding the principles behind it all,
Right.
applying them to your own situation, your own goals.
Find your keto, your functional training, your way to feeling strong and empowered.
Exactly. And don't forget, knowledge is power. The more you understand about your body, about how food works,
Yeah.
about training,
Yep.
the better equipped you'll be to create a transformation that actually works. And that's sustainable. That really means something to you.
Awesome. So there you have it. We went deep into Alicia Vikander's Tomb Raider transformation, and hopefully you've learned a thing or two. Maybe you're even feeling a little inspired to start your own transformation journey.
Yeah, that would be great.
And remember, it's not about being Lara Croft. It's about being the best, strongest version of yourself.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep exploring, keep pushing those boundaries, and keep learning.
And that's a wrap on this deep dive. Thanks for listening.